yourself. Like I said, stress is a part of life, and it's actually not all bad. I think stress gets a bad rap in our society. We tend to think of it as a negative thing, but this stress curve really helps to illustrate for us that stress plays a really positive role in our lives as well. This is from the Canadian Mental Health Association. And if you look, so the x-axis is the level of stress, and the y-axis going vertically is levels of performance. And we might tend to think like, oh, I just want to not feel any stress at all. But if you look at that, if you had no stress, then levels of performance are shown to be very low as well. The presence of positive stress, or what's known as eustress, if you think of the word euphoria, feeling good, it is associated with anticipation, stimulation, and challenge, even leading up to kind of that sweet spot, which is the green line of resilience. So we want to have a certain amount of stress to keep us motivated and performing. The problem is that sometimes we have too much stress. So it might be levels of stress that are too high, or too much stress over time. And that's on the right-hand side of the resilience line, where you start to see performance going down, and experiences like strain, dysfunction, burnout, breakdown, or even disorder. And that's the distressed category. So what we're sort of trying to say is that one of I think the important tasks as a student is to learn how to just to recognize that we can try to befriend stress and use it to our advantage to serve us in our performance. And we're going to talk a little bit about how you can do that. So Lisa, we'll move to the next slide. So there's another piece to this puzzle about sort of our relationship to stress that I'd like to talk about. Great, thank you. I don't know if anyone can relate to the image on the screen in terms of what that feels like when you're feeling stressed. So this quote comes from Emily and Amelia Nagoski, who wrote a book called Burnout: The Secret to Unlocking the Stress Cycle. The good news is that stress is not the problem. The problem is that the strategies that deal with stressors have almost no relationship to the strategies that deal with the physiological reactions our bodies have to those stressors. So pause here from the quote. Taking care of that example of working on all of those algorithms was really good in terms of dealing with the stressor, but it may not have and likely hasn't addressed the physiological experience of stress in the body of the student who was feeling it. And so knowing how we can help to bring those stress levels down in our body is really important. They go on to say, to be well is not to live in a state of perpetual safety and calm, but to move fluidly from a state of adversity, risk, adventure, or excitement back to safety and calm and out again. Stress is not bad for you. Being stuck is bad for you. So these two slides lead me to think that one of the really important things, and Lisa will go on to the next slide, please, to consider when we're thinking about stress is to be able to focus on moving between stress and rest or recovery. So you can call this pendulation. This is an approach from restorative yoga and is also used by elite athletes. If you think about it, when athletes are training, say for the Olympics, they'll isolate a certain muscle or body part, they'll stress it by working it, and then they don't just keep working and working 24/7, they also need to have periods of recovery or prioritized rest, and then they'll repeat. And it's just really striking to me that certainly when I was a student, I didn't prioritize those periods of rest. And a lot of the students that I work with also seem to expect themselves to kind of stay in a high level of stress for long periods of time. So I think that this is a really important, the pendulation, kind of swinging back between stress and rest, is an important thing to consider. One of the best ways to calm down and get grounded is to engage in constructive rest and relaxation strategies, some of which we'll be talking about throughout the rest of the presentation. We've just been talking quite a lot. I wonder if anyone has any comments or thoughts about what we've just been looking at. Any questions? You can pop them in the chat if you do, because I think we're going to be passing the mic over to Kat now. So I'll be happy to see your comments. And we can move to the next slide, Lisa.
One thing that's actually so synchronous is that the quotes that you were just quoting are from the Nagoskis, which is the podcast that I was talking about, actually is about their book. So
that's awesome.
That process, it's in that podcast, but wonderful. So breathing is so essential for us. Something that I've heard before is that we always have our breath with us. So it's always something that we could refer to if there's something stressful going on. Oh, it can just help us reset what's going on for ourselves. So we're going to try a little exercise today called box breathing. But just to explain a little bit about why breathing is so important scientifically, is because it increases the oxygen into our systems and the overall blood flow in our cardiovascular system. And that activates our parasympathetic nervous system, which is the part of our nervous systems which calm our bodies. So we've got this little exercise called box breathing for us to try. It's very simple. Basically what we're doing is we're imagining that we have a box that we're going to draw, and each line of the box is a breath in, and then we hold and then breathe out, and that's another line of the box. So I'd invite us to all kind of just do it very, if we all just wanted to try with this video. Okay, perfect. Kind of gives us a little sense of what it's like. So another piece that I wanted to add into breathing, and something that I find that can be really helpful, is incorporating gratitude into our breathing. So we can use, if we breathe in for 4, when we are holding our breaths, if we just think of an image that we're so grateful for and hold it in, and then breathe that image out, and doing that actually moves the brain activity from the back of the brain into the front prefrontal cortex. And doing so, people can experience shifts in their energy. It actually can create a whole reset, if you will. So